So question number 101. Which one of the following URL used to manage Azure storage? https for storage.azure.com, portal.storage.net, portal.azure.com, portal.storage.com. So what is the answer where we can manage the Azure storage? So everything is managed through portal.azure.com. There is no storage.azure.com or portal.storage.net or anything like that. Everything has to be managed through a single portal, portal.azure.com. Moving to the next question. Question 102. Company A is looking to store 3 terabyte of not frequently used data, and this data is accessed using Power BI. Which of the following Azure service helps to store data with minimum cost? Power BI and not frequently, infrequently accessed. SQL database, Cosmos DB, PostgreSQL, and Data Lake. So Azure Data Lake is the minimum low cost, infrequently used data and to a large amount of data, 3 terabyte, and it can also access through a Power BI. That's a keyword. Okay, going to the next question, 103. What portal to see all the Azure preview features? Preview.portal.azure.com, portal.microsoft.com/preview, azure.portalpreview.com, portal.azure.com. So answer this question is preview.portal.azure.com. If you guys don't know this one, there is a Azure preview comes out. That's not fully, it's in the preview mode. It's not fully tested out. But we can actually use it and you can see what all the features are available in preview. And there is a separate URL actually, preview.portal.azure.com. So that is the answer. Going to the next question, question 104. Can you create a resource group inside of another resource group in a Azure subscription? It's kind of a nested resource group. Is it possible? No. There is no nested resource group is possible. You cannot create a nested resource group. So going to the next question, question number 105. Microsoft SQL Server 2022 installed on Azure Virtual Machine is an example of PaaS or not? The SQL Server 22 installed Azure Virtual Machine. This is an example of an IaaS, not yes concept, no. Because if you install anything in the virtual machine, that's considered as an IaaS, infrastructure as a service, not a PaaS. So its answer is no. Going to the next question. Which Azure service contains pre-built API for machine learning models to use in your own code? So web apps, blueprints, logic apps, cognitive service. So answer this question is cognitive service. So you can use your own, in your code, you can use the Azure machine learning models. So cognitive services is the answer. Moving to the next question, question number 107. What Azure services used to collect log and metric data from a various Azure resources and able to query the result? You can actually see that this is an Azure Monitor, this logs and the data from various Azure resources and able to query the result. So it has to query the result. So it's a log analytics workspace. Actually collecting the metrics and everything Azure Monitor, but actually the query result, log analytics workspace. Answer, log analytics workspace. Question number 108. A user is trying to create several Azure free trial accounts. It's a trial, it's not trail. Typo, sorry about that. Can a user have maximum of 5 free accounts? I don't think one user can have multiple free accounts. So one email account, if you have it, you can only just one trial. And then if you are using that same account, you can only use one time. After 30 days, you'll be get $200 US dollar to use to deploy any resources. After that, you have to pay for pay as you go. It will be taken from your credit card. So going to the next question, question number 109. Company A is planning to host resources in Azure. Can Azure Administrator grant access to partners for those who do not have account in your AzureAD tenant? So they don't have an account, they don't work for us. They are customers outside. So Can Azure can grant access? Yes, that should be like a B2C, right? So we can still use the yes. It's called a guest account. So you can create a guest account with some other company's email address, and then you can grant access. Okay, moving on to the next question. Question 110. Company A is hosting an application in Azure. The application connects to database in Azure. Company wants to use database password is in a secure location. You recommend that storage account for the cloud for password store. Or nobody wants to store the password in the storage account. So it will be from the keyboard. So answer will be no. Going to the next question, question number 111. Company A is hosting an application in Azure. The application connects to database in Azure. Company wants to use database password in a secure location. Do you recommend that Azure Key Vault for the password store? Yes, Key Vault is the answer. Going to the next question, question number 112. Azure administrator wants to find out any planned outage that affect your subscription. Where will you find that information from below? Security Center, Resource Group, Azure Monitor, Help plus Support, Azure Active Directory, or Azure Activity Log. Where actually you can find the information. So the answer will be Help plus Support, but actual answer is the Service Health. But Service Health, if you go to Help plus Support, you can actually go to Service Health. So that's why the answer is Help plus Support. I can show you that where you find that. Okay. So I logged into the Azure portal, and you can see that if you go into Azure portal and see that there is a Help and Support. If you go in there, you see a Service Health. That's where you find any Azure service issue detected, anything. So that's on the Service Health. So because if you use Service Health, that's the actual specific answer to the question. But if you don't have Help plus Support, and then you go into Service Health. So there is no issues right now that affecting any service issues. So Help plus Support, that's where you find Service Health, and that's the answer. Going to the next question, 113. AzureAD Identity Protection can review user sign-in attempts and take an additional action if there is a suspicious behavior. Select all of the following actions that may trigger AzureAD Identity Protection risk detection. So what all users with leaked credentials, impossible travel to a typical location, sign in from an IP address with a suspicious activity, sign in from an unfamiliar location. So users with a leaked credential. Which one is the answer? Select all the following actions that may trigger. It might be a more than one answer to this question. All of them. See, all of these are trigger. So all of the above. So users with leaked potential, impossible travel, sign in from IP address, and all of them. So if say something else comes in, then you just have to see that. So you need to remember this. What will trigger an AzureAD identity protection? All right, going to the next question. You can also search for the URL here. I given a URL. It is given a detailed about these scenarios that will trigger AzureAD identity protection risk. Okay, moving on to the next question. Question number 114. Every new AzureAD directory comes with an initial domain name. What below represents the initial domain name for users? So once you have the Active Directory and then you don't have any custom domain, you will come with you get some domain that's by default domain name or initial domain name. Is it a Microsoft.com? Is it a portal.azure.com or azurewebsite.com? Is it on Microsoft.com? So the answer to this question is on Microsoft.com. And I think I have created a separate video to show you how to create a custom domain. Let's say, so answer initial domain is on Microsoft.com. So number 116, you have a resource group named ABD and following resources are in the resource group. Can an administrator delete a resource in the resource group ABD? As you know, there is a delete lock is enabled. If you see the right hand side, there is a resource group as AVD and as a delete lock. And in the left hand side screenshot, you can see the AVD resource group as the lot of resources. Can any of these resources can be deleted? I don't think so. It's no, because there is a delete lock. So answer this question is no. Moving into the next question, 117. A company A recently started using Azure subscription. Administrators are asked to test a proof of concept POC for several projects and creating several resources as part of their testing. IT manager wants to be informed of the cost if a cost go beyond certain threshold. How do you accomplish this? Create an alert in Azure Security Center, deploy Azure policy to restrict cost, apply tag to all resources in the resource group, create a budget in Azure Cost Management. So the answer is create a budget in the Azure Cost Management. That will let you know if you go beyond certain threshold, if the cost is more. Moving to the next question, question 118. Dash is a schemaless service. So keyword here is a Dash is a schemaless service that automatically indexes all your data regardless of the data model to deliver blazing fast queries. The options are Azure Data Lake, Azure Data Box, Azure Storage Account, and Cosmos DB. What's the answer? Is the Cosmos DB. So Cosmos DB is a schemaless service that automatically indexes all your data. And going to the next question, 119. Which of the following options will be able to reduce Azure cost immediately? Options are use automation to shut down the VMs when not in use. Use Azure policy to restrict administrator deploy high cost to VM queues. Use Azure reservation and pay upfront cost. Evaluate Azure advisor cost recommendation immediately. See, the automation to shut down the VM when not in use, that's not, if you have an existing automation, that's fine. If you want to immediately do something, then I don't think that's a good option because it takes a time to do an automation to shut down the VM when not in use, if not deployed. Azure policy, you can restrict the deploying the high cost VM queues. It's possible, but I don't think that will immediately give you some Azure cost. Use Azure reservation and pay upfront cost, that 33-40%. If you pay upfront for 1 year or 3 year cost, that might reduce. Other advisor is a cost recommendation, but you'll have to work on that to reduce the cost. And so the answer to the question will be Azure reservation and pay upfront cost. So with the Azure reservation, you can take a 3 year, we can pay upfront, and then at least 30% you can reduce the cost on it. So that is the right answer. Going to next question, 120. What happens if Microsoft does not meet its own service level agreement guarantee SLA? Will Microsoft refund a percentage of the monthly service fees to you? Or Microsoft never miss an SLA and always meets SLA, it doesn't need to do anything. Use that service free next month. The cloud Azure has no SLA and it will be up all the time. So that's not true. We have a lot of outages, service outages has happened a lot of times. Free next month, I'm not sure. So let's see what happens if you don't meet the SLA. Microsoft does not meet the SLA. Refund percentage of the monthly service fees to you. It will refund percentage of that. So that's what Microsoft does. So question is 121. Dash offers fully managed file shares in cloud that are accessible via the industry standard SMB and the NFS. So protocols, SMB and NFS means Azure File Service. So Azure Files should be the answer. So the answer to the question is Azure Files. Moving into next question, question number 122. What data format are ARM template created in? This is Azure Resource Manager template created in what data format? Options are Java, JSON, JTML, HTML, PowerShell. Answer is JSON. So JSON is the AMP template. Use that format, JSON format. JavaScript object notation. It stands for JavaScript object notation. Moving on to next question, question number 123. So dash is a command line utility that you can use to copy blobs or files to or from a storage account. Is it JSON, AZ copy, Azure CLI, or PowerShell? So it should be an AZ copy. AZ copy is a command line, don't always work with the storage account. So answer to the question is AZ copy. So AZ copy, and then you can use the storage account SAS URL and then copy all the data. So next question is question number 124. Dash is a DNS based traffic load balancer. This service allows you to distribute traffic to your public facing application across the global Azure region. So traffic is already saying in the question is a DNS based. Always DNS based traffic load balancer is Azure Traffic Manager. So answer to this question is Azure Traffic Manager. Bastion is not exposing the RDP ports, is connecting via Bastion. Front door load balancer. So Traffic Manager is the DNS based load balancer. So what's SLA for 2 or VMs are created within the availability set to provide a highly available application? Is it 99%, 99.39%, 99.29%, 99.95%? So answer to the question is 99.95%. So availability set with the VM in availability set gives you 99.95%. And there's a link below, you can check that one. So moving to next question, question number 126, VM SLA questions. So you can see that here it is clearly given. One question can come from the exam, so just pay attention to this. All virtual machine have 2 or more instances deployed across 2 or more availability zone. Availability zone 99.29. Okay, availability set is 99.95%. Availability zone, VMs in availability zone is 99.99%. Availability set, VMs in availability set is 99.95%. And single instance of virtual machine is only 99.9%. And with the standard SSD is 99.5, and HDD, standard HDD is 95%. All right, going to the next question is question number 127. How do you invite access to AzureAD application if the user is not in your company Active Directory? So the options are external users with another company email cannot be managed by your AzureAD. Add them as a user, add to the right group for access. AzureAD conditional access, invite them as a guest user. If you are the user is not in your AzureAD, the identity management, only way to give them a access is the invite them as a guest user account. So answer is invite them as a guest user. Question number 128. Company A wanted to build a highly available application in Azure. Select below the most appropriate way to describe this. Highly availability application. Virtual machine should have more computer power for high availability. No primary focus to avoid single point of failure. Maybe application should withstand millions of concurrent users and their transaction. Application should have backup copy and another server in standby in case of hardware failure. So remember, the backup is not on a highly available application situation. So the primary focus will be avoid a single point of failure. So it has to be hardware failure or application failure every instance, every scenario. Like if it's a hardware failure or it is a network failure or it is an application failure or database failure, whatever, that highly application should be a single point of failure to avoid. So answer to the question is the primary focus to avoid single point of failure. Next question 129. Azure Dash is a web traffic load balancer that enables. So the traffic load balancer, the question is here is it operates at layer 7. It's a web application. Load balancer is a load balancer, and then application gateway is also load balancer. And the traffic manager. So traffic manager is a load balancer based on DNS. It will just have the DNS based load balancer. Application gateway is a layer 7. Actual load balancer, traditional load balancer is layer 3. So answer to this question is application gateway. So moving on to next question, question number 130. Company A has a virtual network VNet A and a subnet A. A network security group NSG1 is associated to subnet A. Have multiple NICs in a VM in subnet A. Will the network security group rules apply to traffic on all the NICs? So, we can have multiple NICs created on the VM. When we apply a network security group rules, inbound or outbound rules, will this apply to all the NICs? So question is answered no, it's only primary will apply. If you are a secondary NICs, it will not get applied. So just make sure this answer to the question is no. And another question is 131. What below resources can a network security group can be associated? Select all that apply. Always network security group NSG can be applied to a subnet or network interface card. The middle two, not on the virtual network, not on the virtual machine. So answer this question is subnet and NIC. All right, moving on to next question, question number 132. What is Azure RBAC stands for? You might already know maybe this. Is it resource-based, role-based, policy-based, rule-based? It is role-based access control. So answer to the question is Azure role-based access control. So that's the right answer. Moving on to next question, question number 133. Which Azure governance tool will ensure your cloud administrator team deploys Azure resources only to allowed region? So is it an RBAC, Security Center, or PIM, Privileged Identity Management, or Azure Policy? It is Azure Policy. The Azure Policy, right answer is Azure Policy, because Azure Policy we can restrict a VM can be deployed to only a certain region, only allowed to deploy in Central US or South Central. So that's where Azure Policy comes in. Moving into next question, 134. Administrator wants to build an Nginx web server in an Ubuntu VM using tools. Please select 3 that answers that apply. How can you build an Nginx web server with Azure CLI, Azure Portal, Azure PowerShell, or JSON? It's maybe CLI, Portal, and PowerShell, all 3 of them. So all three answers it's asking. So all 3 are possible to create a Ubuntu web server. Next question is 135. Company A wants to see if a Cosmos DB service in Azure will benefit them. Can they migrate their existing MongoDB databases to Azure Cosmos DB? Yeah, MongoDB and Cosmos DB is similar. They have APIs to migrate. So yes, answer is MongoDB. We can migrate into Azure Cosmos DB. Moving on to next question. Question number 136. Your company wants to use hybrid identity model and deploy users to have their password sync between local Active Directory to Azure Active Directory. What tool can be used to achieve this? B2B sync tool, AD Connect, or B2C? Always it is AD Connect. AD Connect is the one actually has sync users from AzureAD to LocalAD to Azure Active Directory. Question number 137. Which defense in depth layer uses distributed denial of service protection? Is it security layer, perimeter layer? Always it is a perimeter layer. Denial of service, it's in the perimeter layer, not in the network layer, application layer. It is a perimeter layer. So perimeter layer uses a distributed denial of service protection to filter large scale attacks before they can cause any denial of service users. Moving on to next question, question number 138. Which Azure serverless computing technology provides the ability to execute workflows to automate business scenario by using triggers without writing any code? See, the logic apps. You don't have to, if it's an Azure function, you have to write a code. Logic apps is the workflow, and it can do an automate based on scenario. Like if this happened, this one, no code. It's like a workflow. It's not a DevOps, it's not a front door. So logic apps is the workflow based on the scenarios it can trigger without writing any code. Moving on to next question, question number 139. What can you use to launch the Azure Cloud Shell? What can you use to launch the Azure Cloud Shell? Usually portal? Yeah, portal also you can use the Cloud Shell. You can go into the Azure portal and you click on that small thing, you can launch the Azure Cloud Shell. So let me show you how so that you'll memorize that in your mind. So as you can see, I logged into Azure portal. If you once you logged into Azure portal, you can see there is a thing greater than sign, and then there is a underscore. You see, this is the one which is called Cloud Shell. So you click on that Cloud Shell, you can actually log in. So the question is, there's a two options you will get it, Bash or PowerShell. Welcome to Azure Cloud Shell. So you can use both. Bash is the Linux-based shell, Bash shell, born again shell, but the PowerShell is the actual Windows PowerShell. So going back to the question, so from the Azure portal, I can actually launch the Cloud Shell. Going to the next question, question number 140. Match the services on the left to the correct description on the right. So Azure Resource Logs, Azure Blueprints, Azure Policy. So Azure Resource Log is to 3 prevents resources from being accidentally deleted or changed. So there is a read-only log and delete log. So that's the right answer, A3. Azure Blueprints, B1, rapidly provision and run new environment with the knowledge that they are in line with the organization compliance requirement. So enforcing compliance is the Azure Blueprints. And Azure Policy C2, enforce standard and assess compliance across your organization. So you can see what is the difference between the blueprints and policy. So please make a note of this one, right? Blueprints are new environment with the knowledge that they are in line with the compliance requirement. This is also compliance, enforces. It actually enforces. This is actually provision it. So you can read through these details here. Blueprints provides a way defined to repeatable set of Azure resources. So you have to see that it's a repeatable set of Azure resources than Azure Blueprints. Azure Blueprints enable development teams to rapidly provision and run new environment, basically for the development team, with the knowledge that they are in line with the organization's compliance requirement. Policy is designed to enforce the standard and assess the compliance. So that's the difference between blueprints and policy. Going back to the next question, 141. Dash in Azure enables you to deploy Azure resources close to the users. Is it elasticity, scalability, geo-distribution, high availability? It's a geo-distribution. So you have a geo-distribution, you can be close to that users. So let's say if users are from India, you can deploy resources in India region. Or if it is in south, in central US, you can put in central US. So answer is geo distribution. Question number 142. Dash is supported by Express Route for connecting an on-premises network to Azure. Dash is supported by Express Route. Is it a point-side VPN, point-to-internet connection, site-to-site VPN, Azure peering device? So the answer to this question is B, a point-to-point Ethernet connection. So Express Route is basically a dedicated bandwidth, dedicated connection from a point-to-point, and it doesn't use the internet connection. It's a separate. When there is an internet, then it will be a point-side VPN and site-to-site VPN. Peering is between the Azure backbone. It doesn't go outside. So when it comes to the Express Route, it is always a point-to-point Ethernet connection. It's just a point-to-point connection. It's a very dedicated bandwidth. No one else can use that unless internet. Unlike internet, nobody can use that bandwidth. Only that company can use to go to Azure. Going into next question, 143. Which Azure feature enables you to organize multiple subscription in hierarchies for unified policies and compliance? It's always a management group. If you want to organize the multiple subscription, that's always a management group. The answer is management groups. 144, question number 144. Your company wants their customers to use their preferred social, enterprise, or local account identities to get a single sign-on access to your application and APIs. What below service will be able to achieve this? Azure B2B, Sync Tool, AD Connect, and B2C. So customer, right? So they don't have any account here. So the B2C, business to customer. So that will be the answer. Question number 145. A standalone app that provides a graphical interface to manage files and blobs in Azure storage account. One application can manage files and blobs in Azure. Basically, an application that can manage Azure storage account. It works on Windows, Mac, on Linux, anywhere you can install that application. And in the backend, it is using the AZ copy on the backend to perform all the file and blob management tasks. With this app, you can upload to Azure, download from Azure, or move between storage account. What is the app? Oh, that's a really good question, right? Is it Azure portal? It is not a graphical interface, but it cannot do all these options. Storage Explorer, AZ copy, Windows CP. Answer to this question is Storage Explorer. So that's the tool. In the backend, it uses the AZ copy and it can do. It's a graphical user interface Storage Explorer. It's a free and you can download it and you can copy the data from the storage account or to storage account. It's a tool that used. It's also available in storage account inbuilt also, but it's also available to install in your laptop. All right, moving to next question. Question number 146. Which tool automatically keeps file between on-premise Windows Server and an Azure cloud environment updated? So you have a server in Windows and some file server. You want to get updated in a cloud environment. What will a tool will be used? AZ copy, RoboCopy, Azure Storage Explorer, or File Sync? Answer to this question is Azure File Sync. So Azure File Sync will enable you to sync data from a local file server to Azure file server and also into a storage account. Storage account also it can sync data between the storage account. Storage account is a cloud endpoint in Azure and the local server can sync the data. So Azure File Sync is the answer. Move on to next question 147. Which storage redundancy option provides the highest degree of durability with 16 nines of durability? Is a locally redundant storage, zone redundant. Oh, GeoZone redundant storage. GeoZone, that is the highest 16 nines of durability. So GeoZone redundant storage is the answer. Moving on next question. Which Azure storage service supports big data analytics as well as handling text and binary data types? Is it storage service, right? Files, disk, SQL DB. Yeah, it's a blob. Blob is actually it supports the text and binary, like a file. It supports a text file, binary data, any types of data it can actually put it. So the Azure blob is the answer. Going to next question. This is question number 149. True or false? You need to purchase an Azure account before you can use any Azure resources. True or false? Yeah, true. You need to purchase an account to use the Azure resources. Yeah. Question number 150. What is meant by cloud computing? Is it delivery of computing services over the internet? Setting up your own data center? Using the internet? It's a delivery of computing services over the internet. So right answer is delivery of the computing services over the internet. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is not a feature of cloud computing? Faster innovation? Yeah. In a limited pool of service? No, it's not limited. You can have whatever the services you want. Speech recognition and other cognitive services? Yes. So answer this question is limited pool. It's not limited. Azure is not limited. Cloud computing is not limited. Yeah, so its answer is a limited pool of services is not a feature. Moving on, next question. Question number 152. Which type of scaling involves adding or removing resources such as virtual machine or containers to meet demand? So adding resources, is it a vertical scaling or horizontal scaling or direct scaling? So answer to the question is horizontal scaling. So like you are expanding horizontally. So you are adding more and more VM into VMware, say scale set, virtual machine scale set. That's kind of a horizontal scaling. So vertical scaling is it's increasing the same virtual machine, you're increasing the CPU memory. Or maybe you can say the web apps, you're scaling to the different scaling plan, more CPU memory scaling plan. You're not horizontal scaling is like adding more resources or adding more virtual machine and containers. So remember what is the mean by vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Moving on to next question. Which cloud service type is most suited to lift and shift migration from an on-premises data center to a cloud deployment? IaaS and PaaS and SaaS. So lift and shift means basically on the VM to local VM to local file server to a local to Azure VM. So like IaaS. So it has to have a virtual machine as it is. So you are migrating the as it is, you are lifting a server in on-prem to a server in Azure. So that will be IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So answer is infrastructure as a service, IaaS. Moving to next questions. Question number 154. What Azure feature can help stay organized and track usage based on metadata associated with the resources? Metadata associated with, is it traces, values or tags? Answer to the question is tags. So tags will help you to track usage based on the metadata. So basically if you put a tag saying that this belongs to this tag is like a finance department, so you can track all the finance tags. You can query and see that what all the devices are tagged with the finance. So we can see that finance department is using this much cost for their resources. So tags is the answer. Moving on to next question. Question number 155. Please select that does not apply with respect to Azure File Sync. Azure File Sync can use any protocol that's available on a Windows server to access your data locally, including SMB, NFS, and FTPS. Yes, Azure File Sync can replace a failed local server by installing Azure File Sync on a new server in the same data center. Yeah, it can actually do that. Azure File Sync can configure cloud tiering. Yeah, Azure File Sync, one of the good options is cloud tiering. Azure File Sync can easily move data into Azure when busy networks are not an option, and move large amounts of data to Azure when you are limited by time, network availability or cost, using common copy tools such as RoboCopy. Azure File Sync can easily move data to Azure when busy networks are not an option. Move large amounts of data. I think large amounts of data, it's not an option to, that's not in a file sync, because file sync take a lot of time to sync the data from on-prem to Azure. So that is not an option. So you have to know about Azure File Sync very deep in to know this answer. So if you have a good network bandwidth and almost like 1-2 terabyte you can transfer. If you are looking to transfer like 75 terabyte or a huge data, then I think data box is the good option, not a file sync. File sync cannot do that. All right, going to next question is question number 156. What is the full form of JSON? I guess you guys know this answer. It's actually JavaScript object notation. So if you don't know, just don't confuse it with the option and object notation. Sign. It's JavaScript object notation. It's also used in AMP template, Azure Resource Manager template also. Going to next question, question number 157. What is the general criteria for adding resources to a resource group? Is there any criteria to adding resources to a resource group? Resource group is actually a logical grouping of resources to a container kind of thing. We can have any resources to any resource, and it does not matter. I think I meant by we can have any resources to any resource group, and it does not matter. All same type of resources will be better placed in one resource group. No, that's not that's a very bad idea. So if you are creating a lot of storage account and all the storage account will go to one resource group, that's a very bad idea. Only resources from a same region should be in the resource group. No, as you see earlier, you can actually put one resource group. We can have resources from different region. That's possible. Each resource should be its own resource group. Oh, that will be a lot of management overhead. Every resource you are keeping it in one resource group, so that will be a lot of resource group will be creating it. Add resources that share the same life cycle to the same resource group, so you can easily deploy, update, and delete them as a group. I think that might be the right answer. Technically speaking, you wanted to keep it a one department or one project tied to all the resources project will be tied to one resource group. So same life cycle, that's the meaning, right? So you're creating a resource group, and all the resources with that project you're putting into that resource group. Whenever that project is completed, you can same life cycle. You just delete it and complete. It will be cleaned up. So answer to this question is add resources that share the same life cycle. This is a good question. Going to question number 158. A company is starting to use Azure subscription and deploy resources in Azure. Which Azure service provide comprehensive solution for collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry from your cloud and on-premises environment? Azure Monitor. Telemetry, collecting, analyzing, so basically Azure Monitor. So just keep in mind that. Going to next question, question number 159. Which cloud model uses some data centers focused on provisioning cloud services to anyone that wants them, and some data centers that are focused on a single customer? All right, so which cloud model? Is it a private cloud, public cloud, multi-cloud, and private cloud? Anyone wants them. Providing a cloud services to anyone wants them, it will be a public, right? And some data centers, single customer. So both are there, looks like, right? Data center means the focus on a single customer, that's like a local on-prem. And providing cloud to anyone wants them, that's like a public. So both public and private includes, that's called a hybrid. Okay, hybrid cloud is answer. Going into next question, question number 160. According to shared responsibility model, which cloud service type places the most responsibility on the customer? That has to be an IaaS, right? Infrastructure as a service. So we have virtual machine, you have to manage, you have to update the patching, we have to automate to save cost. So IaaS is the mostly customer responsibility. So that's the answer. Not the software as a service, completely managed by Microsoft. So we don't need to manage anything. Platform, little bit we manage, little bit Microsoft manages. So answer to this question is infrastructure as a service. Moving to next question, question number 161. How many resource groups can a resource be in at the same time? Can you create a resource in multiple resource group? I know it's not, it's only one. It can be belong to only one resource group. So answer to the question is 1. Going to next question, question number 162. What happens to the resources within a resource group when an action or a setting at the resource group level is applied? Will it inherit? When it is applied in the resource group, the same will be applied to the Will it inherit the same settings to resources within that resource group? Current resources inherit the setting, but the future resources does not. Future resources inherit the setting, but current does not. Setting is applied to current and future resources. I think if you apply a policy, it will not work. It actually, the answer to this question is setting is applied to current and future. It can apply it. It will take effect to the current and also the future resources. So that's the right answer. Moving on to the next question. Question number 163. What Azure feature replicates resources across region that are at least 300 miles away from each other? Across region is the region pairs. So south central to north central, something like that. So answer is region pairs. Across the region. It's not across the data center. If it is across the data center, it's a different. Across the region is the region pairs. Moving on to next question. Question number 164. Which Azure virtual machine feature staggers updates across VMs based on their update domain and fault domain? Okay, update domain and fault domain is availability set. Moving on to next question, question number 165. A user is simultaneously assigned multiple roles that use a role-based access control. What are their actual permissions? The role permissions are role 1, read, role 2, write, role 3, read and write. I'll give you 1 second to read these questions. So they have multiple roles. The user is getting a multiple roles. Role 1 is read and he also getting write and also getting read and write. So which will be actual effective permission? So will he get all the permission, read, write and read, write, or is the actual read, write it will get because the read is already there. So answer to the question is read, write. So basically you have when you have a subscription and one user coming to get access to the Azure subscription, first time you will give a reader access, global reader access. And then let's say he is working on a storage account level, then we will give a storage account contributor or storage account reader role. So he's getting 2 roles. And then after some time he's very good with storage account, we might give him a contributor in the subscription level. So he'll be getting all the access. It doesn't matter, he'll get all the access. So he'll get the reader access, he'll get the storage account access. If he's a backup contributor role, he'll get a backup access and everything. So all the access he'll get. It's not, so that's answer read and write. So going back to next question, question number 166. Company A has several departments and deployed resources in Azure. Each department does not own its resource group to deploy resources. Company wants to make sure that each departments are charged back and receive bill based on the resource usage. The question here is that there are several departments, each department is setting up their own resources in a resource group. But it's actually not in a single resource group. So they didn't plan such a way that all the finance department actually have several resources they deployed in a different resource group. So there is not a one resource group that belongs to a finance group. So how can you charge back? It is easy. If everything is in one resource group, it is easy to manage. So is it Azure Monitor, Azure Advisor, Azure Tags? I think tag is the best option so that you can just tag to each finance resources and say, and you can do a query to get all the tags related to the finance, and then I can accomplish this task. So Azure Tags is the answer. Question number 167. How can you enforce your team deploys Azure resources only to allowed region only? What is the answer to this question? Something is saying to enforce, saying that you are not allowed to create a VM in Azure Central region. What will achieve this? I think you got it right. The right answer is Azure policy. Going to the next question, question number 168. A content delivery network, CDN, is a distributed network of servers that can efficiently deliver web content to users. Which below cloud compute service CDN will falls under? CDN is a IaaS or PaaS or SaaS or DaaS. DaaS is a desktop as a service. SaaS is a software as a service. PaaS is a platform as a service. IaaS is infrastructure as a service. So CDN belongs to, did you get this right? PaaS, platform as a service. Moving on to next question, question number 169. Company has production IaaS web server running on IaaS Azure VM. You need to capture packet or traffic on a VM in your virtual network. What below service will accomplish this task? Oh, you are having some issue with Azure VM and you want to capture packet. So let's say you have something web application running and there is some issue. Then you want to capture the traffic. How do you do that? Right? Azure Monitor, Azure Login Analytics, no. Azure Login Activity Log, no. VM Diagnostic Log, Network Watcher. So answer to this question is Network Watcher. So Network Watcher, you need to enable Network Watcher on that region. Once it is enabled, you can actually capture packets going to that VM. And then you can use a Wireshark or some packet analyzer to see what's going on. So the answer to this question is Network Watcher. Going to next question, question number 170. Company has production IaaS web server running on Azure VM. You need to capture all traffic on a VM in your virtual network. What below service will accomplish this task? Oh, this is the same question. You need to capture the packet, then it will be a Network Watcher. Going to next question, 171. Where can you associate a NSG to? It is subnet and NIC. I think we come across this question again. So answer this question is subnet and NIC. Going to next question, question number 172. Company has secure website running on IaaS server. If you are a secure website, it will be an HTTPS and not able to access from a Chrome browser. The URL is https jojosazurelearning.com. Okay, I don't have this website jojosazurelearning.com, but just imagine it is there. So firewall team opened a port for communication. What port firewall team opened to access the above URL? So it is hitting on HTTPS. So what port is HTTPS? That's the question. 80, 3389, 443 and 21. Did you get this answer correct? HTTPS is running on port 443. The port 80 is the HTTP. That's not secure. 3389 is RDP, remote desktop protocol. And 443 is the right answer. 21 is FTP port. And if you know the SSH that you can connect to Linux, that is 22. Going to the next question. Question number 173. Question, you are learning different cloud models and its benefits. Which of the following are the benefits of using hybrid cloud model? Select two answers. I think control is the good thing and the flexibility. So both two are the options. Hybrid cloud model, you can select that control and flexibility. So question number 174. Company A is deploying resources in Azure subscription. They wanted to be secure their Azure environment. What service will accomplish this below requirement? There is given a statement. Easily provision, manage and deploy public and private transport layer security TLS SSL certificate for use with Azure and your internal connect resources. So is it a web app, security center, Key Vault, or SQL? Certificate, right? Certificates and sockets certificate, TLS certificate, and you want to manage provision where it is exactly done. It should be in the Key Vault. So remember that certificate is always stored in the Azure Key Vault. Moving on to next question, question number 175. Company A is deploying resources in Azure subscription. They wanted to be secure the Azure environment. What service will accomplish this below or requirement? Okay, I think this question come again. So what is the answer? This one showing the certificate as will be Azure Key Vault. Going on again. Question number 176. Azure Disk Encryption uses dash to control and manage disk encryption keys and secrets. Is it a web app, security center, Key Vault, and SQL? So Azure Disk Encryption also uses the Key Vault to control and manage the disk encryption and keys and secret. Anything you wanted to store in keys and secrets, keys, secrets, certificates, and everything, that will be Azure Key Vault. So answer to the question is Azure Key Vault. So it is good to remember Azure Disk Encryption uses the Azure Key Vault to control and manage disk encryption, keys and secrets. Moving on to next question, question number 177. What is Azure Native Security Information and Event Management, SIEM, and Security Orchestration and Automation Response Solution, SIEM and SOAR solution? Is it a security center, monitor, log analytics, or Sentinel? So solution is SIEM, Security Information and Event Management, and Security Orchestration, Automation and Response, SOAR solution. So its answer is Sentinel. Azure Sentinel is the solution. You can eliminate Azure Log Analytics. It is a workflow. Monitor is just to monitor the metrics and telemetry. Security Center is give you the, it's not a solution. So Azure Sentinel is the answer. Moving on to next question, question number 178. Which cloud service fills 3 below vital needs as you manage the security of your resources and workloads in the cloud and on-premises? Continuously assesses, secure, defend. The answer is there in the question itself, right? So 3 vital needs. So it has to defend, it has to secure, it has to assess. So Defender. So Microsoft Defender is the answer to 3 vital needs. That's not only on the cloud, also on-premises infrastructure. Moving on to the next question, question number 179. What Azure service provides just-in privileged access to AzureAD and Azure resources and assign a time-bound access to resources using start and end date? So you don't want to give access to all the time. So let's say an administrator, you just give an access to only for 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. Time-bound access. Is it an Active Directory? Is it Airbag? Is it PIM or Azure Bastion? Did you get this access right? Just in time is called JIT, just in time. Privileged access is PIM. Privileged identity management is answer. So going on to the next question, question number 180. Company A wants to use Azure Database Service. Is using Database Migration Service, DMS, is a solution to migrate their current on-premises SQL Server to Azure SQL DB instance. So if you are familiar with migrating the on-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL DB instance, you might have used something called Database Migration Service. So answer this question is yes. That's the correct answer. That's the only solution, that's the easiest solution to do that. Migrate the on-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL DB instance. Moving on to next question, question number 181. Will the Azure hybrid benefit for Windows Server allows a company to use his existing on-premises Windows Server licenses and run Windows Virtual Machine on a Azure at a reduced cost. So what it is asking is that you already have a license you purchased to use it for a on-prem server, Windows Server, and you are migrating to Azure. Can you use the same license, existing license, to use it in Azure with a reduced cost? Yeah, obviously you can. You don't need to purchase a new license. You can use the same license. Answer is yes. Moving on to the next question, question number 182. Company A wants to use Azure Cosmos DB. Is Cosmos DB service provide the ability to access data using different types of database API, such as MongoDB and Apache Cassandra. So if you, I put a link below. Yeah, I think that link is not for, that's for hybrid use. Ignore that. So basically there are a lot of APIs available to when we want to use the Cosmos DB. Even MongoDB, Apache, Cassandra, it's all available. So its answer to this question is yes. I can show you this one where we can give more detail into this. So you can see from the learn.microsoft.com, APIs, application programming interfaces in Azure Cosmos DB. So you can see, I don't know, you can see it clearly, but let me. So I just make it a little bit bigger. I can see that Azure Cosmos DB offers multiple database APIs, which include NoSQL, MongoDB, PostgreSQL, Cassandra, Kremlin, and Table. So there are a lot of APIs are available. So the answer is yes. So as you see that a lot of APIs are available. So this answer to this question, MongoDB and Apache Cassandra is available. So answer is yes. Moving on to the next question. Question number 183. A cloud administrator deployed a virtual machine a couple of weeks ago, and he would like to see the details of the deployment. Where would he find the details of the VM deployment? So activity log, user logged in, and etc. Azure Monitor, I just give you the metrics, resource group, or Azure Security Log. So all the deployments, if you wanted to see all the deployments when it is done, it will be under the resource group. So if we go to a resource group, we can find. So answer to this question is resource group. So before going to further, I can show you this very exactly. You can see the, if you go to resource group and you can see the plain deployment, where it is a deployment is done, what deployment is based on. So let's go, I'll show you that. So I see I logged into the Azure portal, and you can see there is a resource group AD infra. I'm going to the resource group AD infra, and under there is a settings, there is a deployments. If we click on the deployments and see succeeded. I did a January 3rd, January 2nd, and December last year, and I deployed some of the things, right? And if you can see this, you can do. If you click on this one, you can see details also, deployment details. I created a shutdown the VM. I actually created a virtual machine and also a VNet and also an IP address, things like that. So it will give you details information. Last week or 1 month before, it will give you the details about the deployments. So go back to the question. So answer to this question is resource group. If you want to see the deployment last you deployed, and then you want to go back and see what it is deployed and what was happened, is it succeeded or failed, you can see, go to the resource group, and under settings there is a deployment option. You can see it. Going to the next question. Question number 184. Company A wants to enable MFA, multi-factor authentication. Which one below is the best implementation policy for MFA enforcement? Is it the options are enable per user? That's enable each user session, enable as a security defaults, enable via conditional access. So per user is it's too much to do with the per user session also, and not as a security default. Always remember, multi-factor authentication method is always enforced via conditional access. So okay, you could have conditional access as say MFA. Somebody has to send all the users. You can put a groups also in the conditional access. Say these groups is allowed to only log in if there is a code will be gone to verified with a authenticated app or with a SMS code. So always conditional access is with a MFA. So answer to this question is enable via conditional access. So moving on to the next question, question number 185. When you delete a resource group, all resources in it also get deleted? Yes or no? Yeah, I think you got this answer correctly. Yes, when you delete it, it will also delete everything in that resource group. All right, going to next question, 186. You as an Azure administrator wants to deploy a same set of resources in Azure repeatedly. Which one is the best option below can you use for accomplishing this requirement? Resource providers, management groups, resource manager template, resource groups. Repeatedly you want to do same set of resources, it will be a resource manager template, AM template with a JSON format. We can just put everything in the JSON format and then deploy. You can also use through DevOps, but you can question is ARM template or resource manager template. ARM stands for ARM, Azure Resource Manager Template or Resource Manager Template. Both are the same answer. Going to the next question, question number 187. There is issue with the Azure file sync service in your subscription. You would like to open a support ticket with the Azure support team. Who all can below able to open a support request? Who can actually open a support request? Is an account administrator? Yeah, definitely account administrator can. Owner, contributor, support request for, or all of the above. Account administrator is the that's the one owner actually. He's created the account. So that's only one account administrator we can have. Owner is the highest privilege. He can do everything. Contributor also has the most privilege or ever except giving access to someone else. No user access administrator. And support request contributor definitely can open a support request. So answer to this question is all of the above. Roles can actually open a support request. Actually, you can ignore all these first sentences. Just the question is who can actually open a support request? What role needs to be provided to open a support request? Okay, I think that's the last question. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, anything, you can contact me with my email address is jojosazurelearning@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you think that's useful. I can guarantee you that you will be passing after finishing these questions, everything correctly. You will be passing the exam without any doubt. So see you again next time with another video. Thank you.